Okay, so good day po, and your quote-unquote favorite lawyer po is back for another video. At ngayon pag-usapan po natin tong away between the executive branch and the House of Representatives. So kahapon lang po, September 6, 2025, naglabas po ng statement si ES Bersamin. So basahin ko lang po yung highlighted portion. So ang sabi po nila, the cabinet strongly objects to the recent spins coming from House of Representatives. So may mga pinapaikot daw yung HOR attempting to shift the blame for their own corruption and failures onto the executive branch. So nililipat daw nung HOR sa executive yung mga corruption and failures ng HOR. Okay? And the cabinet will not tolerate any attack on the integrity and reputation of the executive and any effort to hold the budget process hostage. And yung pinaka-conclusion po ni ES Bersamin dito is heed the demand of the people. So ibig sabihin po niyan, yan daw yung demand ninyo. Ito daw yung demand ninyo, the taong bayan. Clean your house first. Okay? So that's a very strong statement po from Executive Secretary Bersamin. So kung ano ibig sabihin nitong clean your house ay malalaman po natin yan this coming Monday and the days to come kasi doon lang po magkakasession yung Congress. But anyway po ngayon i-explain ko na lang sa inyo kung ano ba yung posibleng pinaghuhugutan dito nila ES Bersamin. And because of that, I will be explaining po the budget making process, kung ano yung role ng executive at ng House of Representatives para mas maintindihan nyo talaga at mas makita po ninyo kung sino kaya yung posibleng nag-cause talaga nitong mga current issues po natin involving the public works. Kasi doon po mainly ngayon yung mga budget issues natin. Okay? Ngayon, start po tayo sa discussion. So of course, we are going back to the Constitution po. This is still the 1987 Philippine Constitution, and then punta po tayo niyan sa Article 7, the executive branch of the government, and then pupunta lang po tayo niyan sa Section 22. Okay, so ito po, Section 22. The President shall submit to Congress within 30 days from the opening of every regular session as the basis, ito po yung important i-take note natin dyan, as the basis of the General Appropriations Bill, a budget of expenditures and sources of financing, including receipts from existing and proposed revenue measures. Okay? So ito po yung isa sa misconception kasi yung isip po natin or yung general stereotype po is that yung Congress lang yung gumagawa ng pondo. Pero yung pinaka first step po sa budget making process is nanggagaling po yan sa Office of the President or sa executive branch po as directed by Section 22 Article 7 of the 1987 Constitution. So para po masimula yung budget making process, kailangan po mag-submit ng executive ng ito po, a budget of expenditures and sources of financing which will be used as the basis of the General Appropriations Bill. Okay? So ito po in the real world, ang tawag po dito is yung National Expenditure Program. So yan po yung NEP. Kung naririnig po ninyo yan, yung term na NEP, ito po yun siya. Okay? So again, the NEP is the National Expenditure Program. Ito basically po yung parang infancy stage ng budget natin na nanggagaling sa executive branch. Tapos ito po, after nyan, isasubmit po yan ngayon ng executive sa legislative branch. Tapos yung NEP will now undergo the lawmaking process. Okay? So for the side of Congress po, the legislative, we're still in the 1987 Constitution. Ngayon, Article 6, Legislative Department. So pagpunta ninyo dyan, Article 6, unang-una po na kailangan natin i-take note is this one po, yung Section 1. The legislative power shall be vested in the Congress. Okay? So I am emphasizing this po kasi yung legislative power po kasi yan yung lawmaking power ng government natin. And the legislative power or the lawmaking power po is vested in the Congress po natin. Okay? And yung budget po kasi natin, nagiging batas po kasi yan after it undergoes the first, second, and third reading and once signed by the President. So therefore, pasok po yan dito sa legislative power, yung budget making process. Kasi again, yung budget po is also a law and as a matter of fact, yung tawag po dyan is the General Appropriations Act. Tapos i-insert lang po yung year sa dulo. Okay? So ngayon po, nasa General Appropriations Act of 2025 na tayo. Okay? So yan po. Again, the budget po is a law, specifically the GAA. Therefore, it falls under the legislative power that is vested in Congress by Section 1 of Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution. So ngayon naman po, punta tayo sa next provision kung saan makikita nyo yung limitation sa side ng Congress in relation to the budget making process. And for that po, pupunta lang tayo dito sa Section 25 Paragraph 1. So kung makita po nyo, the Congress may not increase the appropriations recommended by the President. Okay? So ito pong nire-recommend ng President, ito po yung galing sa NEP. At ang ibig sabihin po nito, nitong Section 25, hindi pwede lampasan yung amounts na binibigay po ng executive sa Congress. So let's say sabihin ng executive branch na 800 billion lang yung pondo ng isang department, hindi po yun pwede lampasan ng Congress kasi yun nga, the Congress may not increase the appropriations recommended by the President for the operation of the government as specified in the budget. Diba? So may ceiling po, magsiset ng ceiling yung executive and then hindi po pwede mag-exceed yung magiging actual budget from that ceiling as provided po by the executive branch to the legislative branch natin. Okay? So ito na lang po yung i-explain ko sa inyong limitation. Regarding naman po the first, second, third reading, hindi ko na po explain yun kasi masyado na po tayong technical. But more or less, this will just undergo the same lawmaking process subject to the specific limitations lang naman. Okay, so feel ko dito po yung isang pinanggagalingan yung hugot ng executive sa HOR. So i-emphasize ko lang po at tandaan po ninyo, this is just my own personal observation and assumption po kung bakit nagagalit ngayon yung Malacanang because of the actions of HOR. But anyway po, tingnan natin to ngayon. This is the briefer on the 2025 proposed national budget. So this is from the DBM po, the Department of Budget natin. So this is just a brief summary of yung NEP basically na sinubmit po ng Malacanang ng executive sa Congress for the 2025 budget. So ang important lang po i-take note natin dito is this one po, yung Public Works DPWH. So kung makita po ninyo yung pinropose ng executive branch via the DBM is only 900 billion pesos. Yan yung proposal nila. In other words po, yan yung ceiling na sinet ngayon ng DBM or ng executive sa Congress in relation to the Public Works po. Okay? So ngayon tingnan po natin yung naging actual amount ng budget natin. And for that po, pupunta naman tayo ngayon sa international news naman, Reuters. Okay, so Philippines, Marcos signs into law, record 109 billion budget for 2025. Pero yung important talagang iti-take note natin dito sa report na to is this one. So ang sabi po unang-una dyan, the education sector has the largest budget allocation for 2025 with 1.053 trillion pesos. And then yung second po, followed by the Public Works Ministry at 1.034 trillion. Budget Minister Amena Pangandaman said in a press briefing. So kung makita po ninyo, yung approved budget po ng DPWH for 2025 is 1.034 trillion. Diba? Ilan po ba yung pinropose or yung Senate supposedly na ceiling ng executive? Based dito po sa pinakita ko sa inyo, itong presentation ng DBM, 900 billion lang po yung pinropose ng executive. Pero yung naging approved is naging 1.034 trillion. So, kung makita po nyo, there is an increase of 100 billion plus. And sa DPWH pa, yung increase na yun na 100 billion. And yung isa pa pong naging dilemma dyan ngayon, ang dami pong issues currently facing the DPWH, diba? There is an ongoing investigation sa mga anomalous ghost substandard flood control projects both in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. Tapos yun pa yung ininkrisan ng Congress last year by 100 billion plus. So ang madaling sabi po, in simpler terms po, ang pinaka-point ko talaga dito, may ginawang increase yung House of Representatives which was supposedly not allowed by the Constitution like what I've showed you kanina kasi nag-set ng ceiling na 900 billion lang yung executive pero nangyari, ininkrisan pa rin po ng House by 100 billion plus. Tapos ngayon, ang dami pong issues, ang dami pong mga issues and corruption allegations sa DPWH. So in short, yung taong bayan I'm assuming ay nagkakagulo na ngayon or medyo umiinit na yung ulo and then si E.S. Bersamin as per him, yung mga corruption issues daw na yun ay dinedeflect ng House sa executive which is dapat hindi kasi nanggaling daw yun siya sa House, diba? Kaya nga clean your house first daw. So yan po, feel ko yung pinaghuhugutan dito ng cabinet ng executive branch po natin kasi ang dami pong issues sa 2025 budget na from everything that I've shown here, it would appear from the viewpoint of a reasonable person na may violations po yung House. Although those are all allegations pa lang naman po kasi pending pa yung mga cases sa Supreme Court. But if let's say magtuloy-tuloy nga talaga na ito yung mangyari, yun po, may questionable actions talaga yung House in relation to the 2025 budget. So of course, kung hindi naman ikaw may gawa nun, may cause nun, syempre ikaw as a reasonable person, ayaw mo naman ikaw yung nasisisi. So more or less po, yan yung position dito nila E.S. Bersamin. Kaya nila nasabi to, itong statement na to. Okay? And ang masasabi ko lang din po dito, hindi rin naman talaga walang sala yung executive branch. I'll be honest with all of you. Kasi at the end of the day po, the final act para maging batas po ang isang bill is with the president. Diba? Nasa kamay po yun ng presidente. Kailangan po kasi yan pirmahan ng presidente para maging batas ang isang bill. So therefore, kung meron palang mga questionable insertions yung House of Representatives, meron naman sanang power pa dito yung executive via the line veto po, yung pagpapawalang bisa ng mga certain provisions from the budget na pinropose ng House of Representatives. However, I believe that did not happen. Nag-push through pa rin po yung budget na propose. Specifically na po dun sa DPWH side. Yun na lang muna yung tutukan at pag-usapan natin kasi dun naman talaga yung karamihan ng mga corruption issues and corruption allegations at present. So anyway, going back po the discussion, if PBBM and the executive thinks na mali yun yung mga budget insertion sa DPWH, pwede po sana nila naman yun i-line veto pero hindi po nila rin ginawa. So meron ding lapse on the side of the executive branch. So kung ngayon, kung dahil ba because of those actions ng both HOR and executive kaya nagkaganito-ganito yung mga flood control issues, ang masasabi ko lang po dyan, meron naman pong lapse sila yung both parties because una yung sa House, they exceeded the budget threshold as proposed or the budget ceiling as proposed by the executive. And then in the side of executive, despite that, pinirmahan pa rin po ni PBBM, naging GAA of 2025 pa rin po yan. So yan lang po yung masasabi ko. So anyway, ang main point ko po dito, both parties po, they had their own lapses in relation to their constitutional duty in relation to the budget making process po. Ang 2025 budget po kasi kung makikita po ninyo ngayon, lalo na po yung mga speeches ni Congressman Ungab, panoorin po niyo yun. Lagi po niya tinatawag na yung 2025 daw is the most corrupt budget. Tapos every time sinasabi yun ni Congressman Ungab, wala naman daw other congressman na nagko-question sa statement niya or yung chairman, yung former chairman din po ng APRO hindi rin siya tinatayuan basically or linalabanan po yung statement si Congressman Ungab. But anyway po, ang main point ko lang talaga dito, the 2025 budget po talaga has a lot of issues, diba? There are multiple cases filed against it. Yung una-una po dyan, yung blank bicameral conference committee report, yung question po yan nila Atty. Vic Rodriguez, sila Congressman Ungab, nasa Supreme Court na po yan. And meron din po ako actually video related to that. So kung gusto nyo po mapanood yung more detailed explanation regarding that, kung bakit bawal yun siya supposedly as per the Constitution, ilalagay ko na lang po yung link ng video sa description box. Okay, so yan po yung isang case, yung in relation sa mga blank bicameral conference committee report. And then meron din pong falsification of legislative documents na final sila Atty. Topacio, Atty. Bondok, and si former Speaker Alvarez. Kasi since blank yung bicameral conference committee report, ang allegation nila Atty. Topacio, pagdating daw sa Malacanang, pagpirma ni PBBM, hindi naman na daw siya blanco. So kung hindi blanco, yung question dyan ngayon, sino yung nag-fill in the blanks doon, diba? Kasi signed already yan by the parties once submitted to the office of the president. So yun yung question dyan or yung issue. Sino yung nag-fill in the blanks considering blank nga yung bicameral conference committee report in relation to specific po na budget allocation. So that's another case po, second case. I also have a video for that po. So ilalagay ko na lang din sa description box yung link to the video. And then yung isa pa pong case din na final is yung pagtanggal ng 60 billion na subsidy po sa PhilHealth. There is also a case filed against that. So in other words po, ang main point ko lang talaga dito, there are already multiple pending cases against the General Appropriations Act of 2025. Tapos ngayon, naglalabasan naman yung sa mga flood control issues na naman po. And because of that, of course, kanya-kanya na to silang deflect kung sino talaga yung may sala. And as per E.S. Bersamin, kasalanan daw yun ng House of Representatives, diba? Because sabi ni E.S. Bersamin, they are attempting to shift the blame for their own corruption and failures onto the executive branch. And dapat hindi daw ganun. Clean your house first lang. But anyway po, hopefully nag-gets nyo yung discussion natin dito. I explained the budget making process para po mas maintindihan nyo lang talaga yung hugot ng both parties at para ma-determine nyo rin po para sa sarili ninyo kung sino yung mga may possible or potential lapses or mistakes din po in relation to the budget making process. Okay, so if you like more legal educational videos sa current events, subscribe lang po kayo sa YouTube ko. And until next time po, see you all. Bye-bye!